Hey, welcome back to my community. If you're a subscriber, if you're not, please take a second and hit that like and subscribe button below and ring the bell for notifications. I'm John Lee. This is your stimulus package update for April 23rd, 2021, and your daily news. Without any further ado, let's jump right in. So your stimulus check update. So they've been sending out the plus up payments all this week. Lawmakers are still trying to push for a $2,000 fourth stimulus check. They're not getting a lot of traction. They're getting a lot of resistance from Republicans on their side of the aisle. They're also interested in possibly pushing out a $1,000 check, recurring check until the end of the pandemic. That's pretty much the update I have for stimulus. I know the IRS is still processing tax refunds. Now that they have finished, that's what the plus up payments are going out for. Anybody that had any remainder stimulus where they had used your 2019 tax return information. Once they completed and processed your 2020 tax return, the additional remaining stimulus that you should have gotten will be going out, and it will be a paper check, so be sure to check your mail. I hope everybody is getting all their stimulus checks. Be sure to drop in the comments below if you did get that and if that was a paper check or a direct deposit. It's my understanding that all the plus up payments should be paper checks. I was just kind of floored when I saw this, but take a look at this. Caitlyn Jenner is now running for governor of California.
Hi, good morning, Bill. Reality star and former Olympian Caitlyn Jenner is throwing her hat in the ring for governor of California. She just announced she has filed initial paperwork to run for office. And in just the last hour, she tweeted, "I'm in. California is worth fighting for." She then directs her 3.5 million followers to her campaign website.
3.5 million followers on Twitter. I'm not even on Twitter.
Any of her policy positions, but they're already selling merchandise from California wine.
Look at his man tits.
Bumper stickers. She also just released a statement.
If you think Caitlyn Jenner has nice man tits, drop it in the comments below.
For the past decade, we have seen the glimmer of the Golden State reduced by one-party rule that places politics over progress and special interest over people. Sacramento needs an honest leader with a clear vision. And there's definitely going to be a lot more vision and eyes on this effort to recall Governor Gavin Newsom, with Caitlyn Jenner announcing her bid for office. Her supporters believe her celebrity status will definitely help. Jenner publicly showed support for Trump before. She's a longtime Republican and a transgender rights activist in this deep blue state. Axios reports that a campaign advisor says that Jenner is running as someone that's socially liberal and a fiscally conservative person. In her announcement today, she already slammed California's COVID lockdowns, calling them over-restrictive. She also criticized the state.
She would. I mean, he would say that. Let's not forget, Caitlyn Jenner is still biologically a male.
It's not official
yet,
a man, but everyone in California expects it to happen.
You're going to get a lot of attention.
Okay, yeah, getting a lot of attention, but, you know, governor of California. California is so far radically left. I think it's a beautiful state, but I think that the extreme, you know, far leftist agenda that is just almost tyrannically nonsensical serves it right, and I think Caitlyn Jenner would be a perfect governor. All I'm wondering is what's next. Is it going to be a woman president, or is it going to be a transgender president? So is that like having a woman president if it is still a biological male? Anyways, there's your food for thought. Caitlyn Jenner, governor of California. Let the games begin. So I don't know if any of you guys caught this, but there was a lot of riots and there was a lot of publicity over this teenager who was shot, who was in some type of altercation where she was trying to knife stab another girl in a domestic situation. Police showed up, shot the attacker point blank, and so I guess they have some new video showing the police shooting the teenager, Mikaya Bryant. Let's take a look.
Of killing 16-year-old Mikaya Bryant, shot dead by Columbus, Ohio police officer Nicholas Reardon. Tonight, investigators are examining police-worn body camera footage as well as video taken from a neighbor's security camera showing Mikaya appearing to hold a knife and then lunging at someone wearing pink. Officer Reardon fires a burst of deadly shots. We're joined now by ABC's Trevor Ault. Thanks so much for joining us.
I mean, it
Trevor,
is pretty
what's
disturbing.
the latest on the investigation into Mikaya's death?
Thanks for having me, Lindsay. Today we got a few different, more well-rounded views of what happened in this shooting. One of them, that surveillance footage from the neighbor across the street. He was a witness only in hearing the shots, but his security cameras captured the incident.
How'd you like
as
to have
it unfolded.
that across the
another
street?
video was released by the city police, and those are the dash cam videos from the officers as they arrived on scene. And it is worth noting, Lindsay, that there wasn't a lot of new information revealed by these new videos because the city and the police department took that unprecedented step to release some of the body camera footage within just a few hours after this fatal shooting. And so we have a fairly good understanding of what was seen there as this was playing out, as Mikaya Bryant is seen on that video with a knife in her hand, appearing to lunge at another young girl. And that's when the officer, Nicholas Reardon, opens fire, fires 4 shots. An officer tried to perform CPR, and then she later died at the hospital. The city says they are committed to transparency, they are committed to accountability, and they're going to continue to keep the public informed. For now, though, it seems we've got our hands on those videos. We have a general idea of what happened, but the investigation is going to play out. A general
idea? I mean, it's pretty obvious. The girl was trying to shank another chick, and she got shot by the police. They just happened to be there when she was all up in her feelings trying to kill somebody.
It does seem like there's a real attempt at transparency here, Trevor. What are police saying, though, at this point as far as an explanation?
Well, as part of that police accountability, Lindsay, right now there's very little that the Division of Police can say in regards to this specific shooting. That's because this investigation is being carried out independently by the Bureau of Criminal Investigation, which is an agency under the state attorney general. So at least so far, there are not a lot of committed answers that the interim police chief could give us about even who called 911 or what started this. However, the most pertinent fact and the most pertinent statement likely that the interim chief of police was able to say is in regards to department policy, and that is if there is a presence of a deadly threat either toward an officer or toward a third party, that officer is authorized to fire their weapon and they are authorized to use deadly force. Now, it's going to be up to the BCI to determine whether or not that was in fact the case here. It does appear on the video that Mikaya Bryant had that knife, was lunging at another girl, and could possibly.
What do you mean it would appear? I mean, it's a fact. I mean, you could literally see it for yourself. So curious how that's going to play out. Curious what your thoughts are on self-defense and use of deadly force. Maybe it's different in your state. I'm from the Kansas City, Missouri area, so let me know what your thoughts are. Drop them in the comments below. I'm sure everybody knows about the trial of Chauvin, who was the police officer who killed George Floyd, and the verdict came out that they found Chauvin guilty on all 3 counts. I'm curious what your thoughts are on your reaction or your response to that conviction, whether he should have been found guilty on all 3 counts or possibly just manslaughter. I spoke with a retired police officer from my area who said, yes, he definitely should be convicted of manslaughter, but he did not agree to the other 2 charges. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Let's take a look at what some of America's reactions are to the Chauvin verdict.
So many people I hope look back on as a catalyst for good things to happen.
To Houston, where George Floyd grew up.
Something had to happen to make him understand that, man, you're not above the law.
Minutes before the verdict, outside the courthouse in Minneapolis, Bree Graham told us she couldn't even watch the trial.
It's been the constant trauma, and reliving it over and over and over again.
I agree with that.
We need to see some justice to feel like we're going somewhere.
So she and others crowded around their cell phones, struggling to hear the jury's decision. Then,
oh, guilty on all 3 counts. Where's the actual intelligent? I have to pause this for just a second, because are we, getting a conviction on a movement, or are we getting a conviction on facts and policy and laws here? Now, I obviously think that that was a mistake. I think that there's a lot of law enforcement officers who do abuse their power and who do go too far. But I think that for the majority of the case, a lot of them are just doing their job like everybody else is trying to do their job. So what are your thoughts? Drop your comments below. I'm very interested to know what your thoughts are on whether or not this should have been. I'm not sure that I really agree that, you know, that Chauvin woke up that day and planned to murder this guy. I could almost tell you without a shadow of a doubt. Maybe he was just an asshole. Maybe he went a little too far. None of this putting Chauvin in jail or prison for 20 years and taking him away from his family is going to bring George Floyd back. But the real question here is the real justice. Maybe we need to change some laws, but are all three counts, all three charges worthy of a conviction? Was that actually something that was proven in court, or was it because of all the publicity and because of this movement that actually got the conviction? Let me know. One other thing I wanted to add is how I did see, let's finish what the reactions are, and then I want to make a point about President Joe Biden weighing in on this verdict before the jury actually came to their verdict.
Tightened for almost a year. Former officer Derek Chauvin guilty on all three counts.
I can't believe it. It feels, there's poetry in the fact that he couldn't breathe, and it feels like we just got a
poetry in the fact that you got a guilty conviction for a movement, or you got a guilty conviction for justice for all the charges that were actually substantiated in court through evidence.
breath of fresh air, like for the first time.
If anybody, I got to pause it for just 1 second. If anybody knows what the facts are in this case, drop them in the comments below. If you have anything to add to the conversation, I'd love to know where people stand on. It's my understanding that they found fentanyl in George Floyd's blood tests. Now, I'm not defending the police in any way, but defunding the police and eradicating the police and totally getting rid of any way of everywhere that they've defunded the police and gotten rid of the police in their district, they have seen a dramatic increase in crime rate and murder and homicides. So drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd be interested in hearing that. Let's continue.
It feels like we can breathe.
Throughout this trial, both the prosecution and the defense had insisted that the case was about the actions of one police officer. But many in this crowd thought it was about much more than that.
I was 11 years old when Trayvon Martin was murdered, and he didn't get justice. I grew up seeing my people not get justice, and so I'm scared it was just going to.
So if you're going to stand for justice, make sure that you're standing for justice. The real justice would be change. That's obviously what people want to see. People don't want to live in fear, but we have to have the ability to protect our loved ones. And in this situation, just like in the teenage shooting, there has to be accountability. There has to be accountability on the police enforcement. There has to be accountability on, the citizens for, actual lawful justice. There can't just be this movement or this idea that let's just convict him to prove a point. So did they convict him on all three charges to make a point and, or to make change, or is there actual justice in all three convictions, or just the manslaughter? Let's continue.
Be the same story over and over. So for us to finally have our first victory, it's crazy.
A victory that ricocheted around the world.
I was sitting in front of the TV watching the verdict come down, and my hands started sweating, my body started shivering, and my heart started pounding because I was nervous. I was nervous because I didn't believe.
In Louisville, a city rocked by the death of Breonna Taylor, what started as relief has now turned.
I have to say real quick, the Breonna Taylor thing was a bunch of bullshit. I don't know the facts on that. If you know the facts on that, drop them in the comments below. Let's continue.
To reflection.
I'm so surprised I ran up here. I'm shocked. I don't even, is it true though?
It's true. Guilty
Okay.
on all three counts.
Guilty on all three counts, as it should be. America got it right for once.
Did they get it right? I'm not so sure about that.
You know, you made a salient point in that piece, Gabe. This idea that it wasn't, for a lot of folks, just about Derek Chauvin yesterday. You've been on the ground for weeks now covering the trial. You were just a few feet away yesterday for the celebrations. What struck you most about the trial? What struck you most about the reactions to the verdict?
You know, I think one of the main things was during opening statements when that video was played in court. So many Americans had not seen it in full, really, you know, for so many months, since last year. And then it was the testimony that over and over again, police officers were testifying against one of their own. It was really unprecedented in many ways, and it raises a lot of questions about the future.
Now, I did see some lawmakers in a meeting the other day, and you know, we don't want to, but see, like in this case where the 15-year-old girl was, you know, literally in the middle of trying to stab to death another human being. Where do we provide the protection for our law enforcement, who we actually pay to protect us? And you know, they're not necessarily paid to protect us, but they're paid to respond to these situations and deal with these situations. And sometimes we have to use lethal and deadly force. Where do we draw the line on that? I'm sure, you know, one of these lawmakers was talking about where's the protection for the police officers? You know, the guy was probably just trying to do his job. And I'm not advocating for this Chauvin asshole, because the video obviously stands for itself, that he was an asshole, you know, with his hands in his pocket, with his knee on his neck. So maybe manslaughter, unintentional, definitely went too far, but does he deserve all three convictions?
Reform. But what we heard from a lot of protesters here, Craig, and as well as we heard from the Floyd family, many of the demonstrators we spoke with said that they felt that this was not the end of something, but the beginning.
Gabe Gutierrez for us here in Minneapolis as well. Gabe, thanks.
So I don't know if you've heard, but Washington, D.C. is trying to pass a law right now to become the 51st state of the United States of America. It looks like they have the Democratic vote, but it appears that may get stalled out in the Senate. Let's take a look.
On this vote, the yeas are 216, the nays are 208. The bill is passed. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
So there you have it. Washington, D.C. will likely become the 51st state of the United States of America. So this story kind of throws me off. This is from about 4 hours ago, and somehow somebody somewhere has lost a submarine. Let's take a look.
That disappeared during a training mission with more than 50 people on board. With just hours of oxygen left, the U.S. has joined the search. Chief Global Affairs anchor Martha Raddatz has the latest. Good morning, Martha.
Like, how do you fucking lose a submarine?
This morning, the Pentagon is sending aircraft to help in the search for the submarine, joining so many other nations in a race with the clock.
This morning, the desperate search for the missing Indonesian submarine with 53 sailors on board. The last transmission with the sub more than 60 hours ago. The crew requesting permission to make a deeper dive to test fire torpedoes. But it never resurfaced, and never another word. Today, mere hours of oxygen left on the vessel, and the only sign of the submarine, a wide swath of oil at the last known location near the island of Bali.
The real worry here is that an oil slick was discovered above the area where the submarine started its descent, which would suggest that there was some sort of a catastrophic failure in the dive. This submarine was only certified to go about 800 feet deep, but the depth of the water that it dove in is over 2,000 feet. If the submarine lost power and continued its dive, it would not survive the depths of the bottom of the ocean at that point.
Wow, that is insane. Can you imagine dying like that? Holy shit.
With several other countries also offering to assist. But even if the submarine did not implode, the chance that the crew will survive gets slimmer by the hour.
The real problem here is time. If there was a chance to save the crew, or if the crew were still alive, time is of the essence.
And at this
Wow. Well, so there you go. Somehow you can lose a submarine. If you have any idea what happened to that submarine, be sure and drop it in the comments below, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. This is an awesome story. Everybody's heard about Elon Musk, and we're definitely going to talk about some cryptocurrencies and the stock market here pretty soon. Let's go ahead and take a look at this clip. SpaceX launches 4 astronauts to the International Space Station. This was this morning, about 5-something this morning. Let's take a look at this because this is really impressive, and I love everything about space exploration and space travel. Here we go without any further ado.
2, 1, 0. Mission and liftoff, guys.
Roaring off one of the most historic launch pads at the Kennedy Space Center, another SpaceX rocket headed for the space station.
Teamed up with NASA. Isn't that something?
Performance so far. Accelerating into the pre-dawn sky and making a beeline up the East Coast.
Copy, 2 Alpha.
Before first stage separation.
Acquisition signal 1.
On board the Dragon capsule, Commander Shane Kimbrough, veteran Japanese astronaut Akiko Hoshide, European Space Agency astronaut Thomas Pesquet, and pilot Megan MacArthur sitting in the same seat in the same Dragon spaceship that her husband Bob Behnken flew in last May when she and their son watched from the ground.
You're just really like your whole heart and soul is on that rocket watching the person you love launch into space. And I was just thinking about, I would be so happy to see his face when they reach orbit and, you know, we can see him and know that everything has gone well.
Dragon and her crew scheduled to rendezvous with the ISS early Saturday.
There is one small complication. When the Dragon space capsule arrives at the International Space Station with 4 astronauts on board, that brings to 11 the number of people on board the station. They've got 3 toilets for 11 people, but they don't have enough sleeping quarters.
Acting NASA Administrator Steve Jurczyk says 2 astronauts will simply have to float sleep, their sleeping bags tied to a wall.
Station's the size of a football field.
I want one of those.
The interior is more like a 4 or 5 bedroom house, but they do have that third dimension that they can pretty much sleep anywhere and just tether themselves.
The tight quarters
Let me
won't
tie
last
myself
long.
to the
The
wall
4
and
astronauts
take
who
a
arrived
nap.
at the station last November will return to Earth next week.
This is the 3rd crewed flight in a year. It's the first time that they have reused the rocket as well as the capsule. So this is all part of the Elon Musk vision of how to make all of this that much more cost effective, guys.
Yeah, and by the way, SpaceX and Elon Musk just won a major contract to land astronauts on the moon. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So this is all part of the Artemis program that NASA is running, and eventually they want to have NASA astronauts landing on the moon, and SpaceX has now landed that contract to put the lunar lander together to essentially come out of lunar orbit down to the surface of the moon. Now, that is probably not going to happen until beyond 2024. They've got to run some test flights. They've got to...
So on that note, I have to... I got to speak to the vision of Elon Musk. Obviously, he's a visionary beyond his time and excels in his academics. And his vision for the future of discovery and technology is just beyond anything that any of us regular, everyday people have any clue about. So he's obviously working on, building better batteries and building rockets, and just got the contract to land one of these rockets or one of these missions, land astronauts on the moon. We're now being able to use some of these spacecrafts, reuse some of these spacecrafts and landing pods, which is extremely cool. All these missions to Mars, which I want to touch on in just a second. We'll get an update on Ingenuity. But I wanted to talk about the Dogecoin real quick because holy shit, it cost me about $400. I told everybody you shouldn't do this, only risk what you can afford to lose. So I put $100 in, of course, and it just started going up. I've seen a couple articles about people that have made millions of dollars off the Dogecoin. But so in this new infrastructure bill that President Joe Biden is unleashing on the country, they're trying to get a 4th stimulus check, but part of this social infrastructure and infrastructure bill is talking about a 40% tax on the capital gains. And after this news came out and the Treasury was talking about auditing the cryptocurrencies and people using their stimulus, so a ton of people put their stimulus in the stock market. Tons of people put their stimulus in the cryptocurrencies, hoping to turn that to 600, 1200, 1400 into, you know, 1600, 1800, 2000. Then the U.S. government releases all this trash talk, and Elon Musk is planning this contract. He got the contract. He's, you know, there's all this news going out. All these memes are going out. Dogecoin, it's Doge Day, 420, blah, 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 blah. So I put $100 in, it started going up, put another couple $100 in, kept going up. So I was like, shoot, I'll put in, you know, I put in about $900. But after the news came out, the stock market started to crash. All the cryptocurrencies started to crash. And so now I think I heard something about the government, actually, U.S. government talking about, or there was some kind of ban on cryptocurrencies in Turkey. And so all this stuff just totally bombed the stock market. It bombed all the cryptocurrencies. So as I saw all this tanking, I was like, shit, screw this. And I held out for Doge Day. I thought it'd be really cool and spectacular to see everybody come up out of the projects. But what happened? Everything bombed. It was like, well, we're going to the moon. We're going to the moon. No, they launched the rocket straight into the ground. So that's U.S. politics for you. So I just wanted to mention that because I think it's total bullshit. It cost me $400 that I definitely could have used elsewhere. So don't be stupid. Don't risk what you can't afford to lose. And if I were anybody, I would just stay away from cryptocurrencies that can't be validated. Okay, this digital currency is a really cool thing, but it's like playing the lottery. You know, you can't take your whole stimulus unless you just don't need the money to pay any bills. And if that's the case, you probably shouldn't have got a stimulus in the first place. But you can't put all of your eggs in one basket. That's why I tried to diversify my portfolio. Some on Fidelity, some on Webull, and then some on Robinhood. Now I'm in this mess. And before you knew it, I was like, oh, it's going up. Let me add to it. Oh, it's going down. You know, everybody was saying, oh, just hold, just hold. Look where we're at now. If I would have just let my investment sit there, I would be out money. I mean, it was down. It was up to 45 cents. It was record high, and then, you know, back down to 20-something cents. I mean, I could look right now. Let me just take a look right now and see. Because I'd be willing to bet you that it's not very high. Let's do a search on crypto. Let's pull up the Doge. 23 cents. So I bought in at 33.5 cents. So all you do when you start losing cents and micro cents and stuff like that, all you're doing is losing money. When it goes down, down, down. Look at the week. Whoop. There's the week. There's the month. So everybody saw this was going up. And everybody was like, oh, yeah. Shit, I was too. And then Doge Day hit. Everything tanked. And it has just been on the decline since. Yeah, it's still well over what it was when it started. But guess what? A lot of us weren't on that money train. So anyways, that's my 2 cents. Cost me about $400. I would be leery of Dogecoin. I really don't want to give them all the publicity, but I just wanted to remind everybody, be smart, be wise with your investing for what it's worth. And don't forget, if you like videos like these, hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. Let's take one last look at my last story of the day. Is the update from Ingenuity, which is a helicopter that has been launched into the atmosphere on the planet Mars, and I just think this is super exciting. For those of you who don't know, Ingenuity is an aircraft that was built something like a helicopter. For those of you that don't know and don't care, feel free to skip to the end or go do something else, like go fuck yourself. But for those of you who are all about technology and innovation and exploration of our solar system and making a better life for mankind and all humanity, Ingenuity is a helicopter-type aircraft. It's similar to a drone. They had an issue with the takeoff. They did an initial flight test that failed, and so they had to do some updates. Took a bit of time. And it's my understanding, this video was posted yesterday, but I think they have successfully taken flight on the second attempt. And let's take a look. There it is at 16 feet. Man, that's cool. There it is on the ground. I imagine these photos are coming from the rover, Curiosity. An onboard camera from the helicopter's second flight. Man, that's cool. Obviously, as a remote pilot, I think that's cool. But any person, whoa, there it goes. It's so crazy you don't see any resistance. It's crazy you can see the shadow. It's weird to see a shadow on another planet. It's weird to see anything on another planet. It's just weird to see another planet. So I really look forward to the stunning photography and video and the exploration of another planet. Like, to be off the ground in another atmosphere. I can't even imagine the calculations involved in something like this. Perseverance is the rover. My apologies. I stand corrected. So now NASA has teamed up with SpaceX, Elon Musk, to charter a trip to land on the moon. And I'm super excited about that. And I think you guys should be too. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what your thoughts are on that space exploration. Do you think maybe we shouldn't even be spending money on understanding other worlds or sending any of this stuff into space? Or do you think it's a total waste of time? Or do you think it's the coolest thing to hit the technological era since the microwave or the telephone or the cell phone? I'm John Lee. Thanks for stopping in. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. This has been your stimulus check update and news report for Friday, April 23rd, 2021. I'm on to the next one. We'll see you next time.